afternoon. Kirsty Bushell, CBE, is a wing commander of SAFA, the Armed Forces Charity. She has met the Queen many times. Joined the RAF in 1987. Kirsty has served in the United Kingdom, Germany, the Gulf, Cyprus, Norway, around the United States and in Canada in intelligence and infrastructure and personnel support roles. And Kirsty's on the line now. Kirsty, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John. Hello.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I found it very interesting that the procession from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall involved the King and the new Prince Philip, both wearing RAF uniforms.
Yeah, that was really a moment of great pride to see them in their RAF uniforms. Because, of course, a vast majority of the parade are from the Army, and the carriage will be towed by the Royal Navy. So it was great to see in such a joint environment where we all work together for our Commander-in-Chief to see the RAF being represented there. It was a really proud moment.
Because in of itself, it was quite extraordinary to see that, wasn't it? Because normally, we talked about this a little earlier this week as well. The Navy is the senior service, then comes the Army, and the last but by no means least force, the RAF, because of course planes weren't around until the sort of beginning of World War I. So you are the junior service, but of course you are the Royal Air Force.
Yes, and there's a great history there in which the Army was founded from all the different regiments, and that's why it's the British Army, and then the Royal Navy, which of course was the very first, and then the Royal Air Force was founded in 1918. And of course Bristol is really at the heart of that aviation and defence industry, and we're really surrounded by organisations and companies that were part of that growth. And it's been a great privilege to serve in such a technologically advanced service. And
fascinating also to think, most people think of the RAF, they think of pilots and planes and ground crew. But there's more to the RAF than pilots and planes and ground crew.
They are what we send forward on operations, and we operate in a joint environment where you'll have people on the ground directing them in. You'll have engineers, intelligence, chefs, drivers, people in all operations, people like myself in support where we run the infrastructure and we look after the people. And it really is all about the people. And I think that we all appreciate that we've got different roles to play, but certainly supporting those that fly is absolutely fundamental and critical in what we do.
And as we learnt from the Second World War, as I suppose we began to understand from World War I, if you control the air, you're well on the way, aren't you?
Yeah, we talk about air superiority and the ubiquity of the air, that it covers everything. And whether that's from unmanned aerial vehicles and drones, whether we're looking in from satellites, from space, launching off a carrier on joint operations, but certainly the speed and agility and the technological advances in Her Majesty's reign have been quite tremendous to see.
It's extraordinary. I mean, when we think of all the things that have happened from her ascension through to her death, it really is an extraordinary time. And of course, it is the Royal Air Force. And I mentioned in my introduction, Kirsty, you have met the Queen on a number of occasions. That must have been as a serving member of her armed forces, a very important and special moment.
Yes, on a personal level, I remember from being, a young brownie, then a Girl Guide and a Venture Scout, promising to do my best to do my duty to God and the Queen, and then to join up and meet members of royalty and then ultimately Her Majesty felt like a real lifetime from my small Scottish town through to meeting the woman that I had so sworn to give service to. So a huge privilege. And with SAFA, the Armed Forces Charity, we really felt valued and seen and understood by Her Majesty. And so at that time of her recognition of the work, the needs of our beneficiaries, that the loyalty and dedicated service that we gave to her was given in abundance to us by her service to us as a nation and to her armed forces and their families. And that's a really important part of the work that we do in SAFA.
Well, just touch on that if you can, Kirsty, because there are lots of these armed forces charities and those who support the armed forces and, various events. But what specifically does SAFA do?
Well, the most important thing is that people can access in a way that suits them. But in SAFA, we look after the serving family and their families, veterans. We provide mentoring to people who are leaving. We provide support accommodation for those who are in long-term rehabilitation care for their families. We run a domestic refuge and adoption service for families in the service who find it hard to access through local services. And the backbone of our service is the caseworkers, the thousands of caseworkers across the UK and the globe who will come and assess your needs, make sure that you have access to the support that is available and can support you as a community volunteer in the service or in the veteran community. So please do reach out if you believe that you need our support and you come from that service family.
So not just for veterans, but also for serving personnel too?
Yes, that's absolutely where we started back in 1885 when the men went off to war, and of course they left families behind, and
yes.
You were paid by the paymaster wherever you were, in Egypt in this case, and our founder James Gilday recognised that there were families in need back in the UK, and then it developed through district nursing, through the First World War, where we were great advocates and ran the Wartime Fund. And then in every conflict since, we've evolved to support needs, and we anticipate needs. We commission research. We make sure that we're providing a valuable, relevant service. And with Her Majesty as our patron, we always felt that we were visible and seen, and we had that level of support and insight across the whole serving charity environment.
Well, the work of SAFA continues. I'm sure the patronage will probably pass to. Nothing is certain, of course, Kirsty, but, it will pass from...
Nothing is certain.
No, nothing is certain, nothing should ever be taken for granted either.
No,
but certainly the patronage of the Queen and the work of SAFA continues. Kirsty Bushell, CBE. Wing Commander Kirsty Bushell, CBE. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on BBC Radio Bristol.
John, my pleasure. Thanks so much. Pleasure. Thanks so much. Pleasure. Thanks so much. Pleasure. Thanks so much. Pleasure. Thanks so much.